and welcome to Nelson All Over Cards. My name is Nelson, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 decks that I'm looking forward to once we get the Jubilee Hero Pack in our hands. Now, Villain Theory and I did a blind react to the Jubilee reveal. You can find that linked. I'm all turned around. I think it's going to be over here on the video. And then also down below, Villain Theory did a deep dive into the Jubilee Hero Pack, which I have linked that video down below. We're going to be talking about 5 decks. 4 Jubilee decks, and then the 5th is another hero that I'm excited to use some of the Justice cards that we got we're getting in the Jubilee pack for that. So let's just dive in and talk about deck number 1. The first one we kind of already talked about a little bit on that blind react video, but Float Like a Butterfly in the Justice aspect is going to be a lot of fun, I think, with Jubilee, because Float increases the damage each attack does to a confused enemy by 1. She does have Confuse available to her with, I have to look at my notes, with Blinding Flash and Flash of Light. And so we already have Confuse in our kit, but if we're running in yellow, which Float Like a Butterfly is a Justice card, then we also have Confuse in that aspect as well. And what's really cool is we can use some of her attacks like Firecracker or whatever to deal damage, but she also has her Sunglasses. Sunglasses give her +1 attack, but also you can exhaust them after you play an attack event and deal damage equal to that enemy, equal to the number of resources, different types of resources you paid for it. So if you use a 2-cost attack event, you pay for it with 2 different resources, exhaust, you deal 2 damage. But it is an attack. It actually is an attack. And so you can use this and increase that damage output with Float. And so now you're kind of getting double dinged with Float. You get to combine this with her big money. She's going to be a very, very rich hero. She has 3 additional doubles. You can use her her hero ability to exhaust and generate wild resources. And so that's going to generate a lot of money. When I see a lot of money, my mind kind of goes to allies, which is already something that Float loves because it's not just your attacks that are increased. Your ally attacks are also increased when you're attacking that confused enemy. So if we use Float and we run with her Sunglasses dealing additional damage, big money into allies dealing a lot of additional damage, I'm pretty excited for the Float Like a Butterfly strategy. The second deck that I wanted to talk about today is it's kind of a conglomeration of a lot of different aggression decks, ideas, but it's effectively a Hone Technique deck. Hone Technique is a 3-cost upgrade that you can play in red, where if you pay for your red events, your aggression events, with a mental resource, you get to add the cost of the event into the damage output of the event. So really cool, a lot of fun to build that type of deck. Now, Jubilee has a lot of wild resources and a lot of really cool things that she can do. She wants to be paying for cards with multiple different resources as well, which kind of makes me want to put a lot of wild in there, which means that we can hit that kicker for Hone Technique. And so I think a lot of the normal Hone Technique targets for like melee and all of that goes in there. But what I'm most excited about is No Quarter. And No Quarter is a card that has a physical resource requirement on it as well. So now we have a 2-cost card, which has a physical and a mental resource requirement if we are looking to Hone Technique it, which I think we can do. With her hero ability, generating a wild resource, one of her doubles hits there, and then if we just have a lot of wilds in our deck, we can hit this, and then we can start discarding cards and then drawing all of the aggression cards. Now, if we're going to be running to do this, I think you could probably make a stronger deck, but I also just kind of want to try it at 50 cards and just throw as many red cards into that deck as possible, because No Quarter will draw us those red cards. We're dealing like 6 damage, we get to draw a lot of cards. Combine that, or I guess like in tandem with that, because we are doing so many like wilds, I want to be putting in the aggressive energies, the power of aggressions, all of these things that can help me hit those kickers, but also be able to draw. Probably throw in White Fox and Digging Deep, because those are also kind of pseudo targets for No Quarter, because even if you discard them, you do get to draw them or put them into play in White Fox's situation. I think the No Quarter deck is going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited for that, and just to kind of like, maybe it's a little bit gimmicky, but just to kind of go for a 50-card No Quarter deck with Hone Technique, because she has the wild resource generators, because she is able to kind of hit those kickers pretty reliably, especially since she has access to X-Jet because she is an X-Men. I'm just pretty pumped about the no quarter Hun Technique 50 card conglomeration of ideas deck. So that's deck number 2. Deck number 3 that we're talking about is actually going to be a leadership deck. And leadership, because of how rich she is. Leadership, you want a lot of money to pay for your allies, and she's going to be able to do that with her Plasmoid Energy resource cards. So we're going to get those 3 doubles already in there. And now, a lot of the times, I think I'm going to be building my decks and excluding the double resources, similar to like what we do with Black Panther, because we have the Vibranium and keep kind of a normal cost curve. But what I'm really excited to do here is something similar to what I've done with the Black Panther and just go big, big, big money and throw in the doubles as well, and then skew that cost curve way up with the allies and just kind of pretty much just allies. Maybe some bigger supports as well, but because we have access to Confuse, if we are in leadership, or if we're in leadership, we have access to Confuse in her own cards. We can then flip down, use X-Men Instruction to shuffle some of those X-Men cards back in, which we will be able to pay for again. This is also where I want to talk about Mutant Education. I can see myself running Mutant Education and X-Men Instruction in this deck, especially if we have that X-Mansion, which allows us to draw a card whenever we play it. But because she has identity-specific resource cards, which is pretty interesting because now we can shuffle those in with Mutant Education, shuffle allies in with X-Men Instruction, and kind of set the deck. And if we play Beast, go grab a resource card, use the resource card to play something else, flip down, shuffle Beast and that resource card back in with some of our gray events that we have. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The last deck that I'm going to be talking about for Jubilee specifically, and then we have a deck that we want to talk about for another hero utilizing the cards that come in Jubilee, is like, I'm going to call it like outsourcing. Basically, it's a shield deck. But we can kind of play a shield support because her shopping spree is able to tutor an item. You can then use your shield cards, which get around kind of the restriction of who can remove threat from shopping spree. You can use shield cards, surveillance team, that kind of stuff, and remove and clear off shopping spree. You can then set this up for other players at the table to go tutor the items that they want. And we'll talk about some cool pairings that I think will be fun here in a second. But the other thing that you can do here is run Disguise. And Disguise is one of the new cards. You can play it under any player's control. It is an item, so you can tutor it. So you go grab Disguise, and you can then throw them out on other players, which help them thwart this down quicker. I think maybe the early game or the easy way to do this is to get some surveillance teams out there pretty quickly who are supports. They can take threat off of shopping spree, clear one, have another player trigger the action on shopping spree, exhaust their alter ego, remove a counter, and then go find an item. But you can also set it up where you can clear it very quickly with like your Homeland Interventions. Actually, no. Yeah, Homeland Interventions, not Global. I get those confused all the time. Homeland Interventions, you can clear those and start building your items or the disguises for the other players that they can trigger quickly. Use Mutant Education to continuously rotate that back in. Use her alter ego ability to put it into play, and you can trigger this pretty much every single turn, starting probably turn 1, maybe even turn 2. So that's kind of, I think, a really fun multiplayer deck, and I have 3 targets that I'm calling out that I think would be fun to play with alongside, either in a multi like 3 or 4, or just as a 2-handed. First one I think would be really fun is Captain America. Captain America is able to grab his shield, his helmet, super soldier serums, which are the really key ones here. And those are all item traded cards that we can then use to put them into play. Cap also has the ability when he flips up, because you have to exhaust to remove that threat from the shopping spree. So if you use Cap to exhaust to remove that threat, you can flip up, use his I can do this all day ability, discard a card, and then ready. Kind of getting around the cost of exhausting to play that, but we have so many targets for Cap that I think he's going to be a fun target, or a fun teammate for Jubilee to hit those shopping sprees. Next up is going to be Gambit. Now, Gambit has his guild armor and his staff, but he also has a lot of alter ego thwarting. Shopping spree says that a hero or allies cannot remove threat from shopping spree, but Gambit and Alter Ego, he's the thief extraordinaire. He's going to go steal some stuff. And so being able to steal that, put some of his hero-specific items into play, that's going to be really cool. Now, we do have Comms Implant and Energy Barrier, as well as Disguise, which are the item cards that are not hero-specific cards. So there's not a lot of them. But I'm thinking that if we run Gambit and Protection, we can then use those to tutor like the energy barriers. I think that's where I would like to run him. But then it's also just like a really good card, or a really good target for Creole Charmer. Get that confused. I feel like there's just a lot of synergy here between Jubilee and Gambit with the Shopping Spree ability and how easily Gambit can remove threats in his Alter Ego form. The third hero that I think would be really fun to pair here is going to be Iron Man. And Iron Man is fun for that protection. We can run like the repurposed Iron Man build, but also give him Disguise. If Jubilee's running Justice, which this is the deck that we're talking about, pass Disguise over to Tony, and it allows Tony to actually use his Alter Ego ability for something in the beginning of the game. Tony is going to get plus hand size equal to the number of tech cards he has available or on the table, right? And so a lot of the time, Tony wants to be sitting in Alter Ego for a good while. And that can kind of be a feel bad because Tony's Alter Ego, start of the game, you're exhausting to recover. You're probably not taking a lot of damage as a Alter Ego character at the beginning of the game. So if we can give him Disguise, then we can have Tony sit in Alter Ego, and then his activation actually does something. He can exhaust to remove threat while he's in Alter Ego. Now, if you pair this Disguise Shield Jubilee deck with a Protection Iron Man, you can then use that all of those fun cards in Shopping Spree to get your Energy Barriers, which is a tech item, which is going to increase the hand size for Iron Man. You can also tutor his Arc Reactor is a item, and so you can just build very, very quickly with Iron Man. I think this is going to be a fun combo, but this does lead me into my fifth deck that I'm excited to play, and that's just Iron Man himself in Justice. For all the reasons that we just talked about why it's good to have Disguise on Iron Man, I want Disguise on Iron Man in a solo game as well, because if we can mulligan hard for it, probably throw some meditations in there as well, and if we can sit in Alter Ego and probably run like a Dazzler or a couple of other cards, Professor X, that can confuse from Alter Ego, we can sit in Alter Ego in a Justice, use some of our cards, use our Disguise to manage threats as we build very, very quickly, and we're not really forced to flip into hero with like a 3 to 4 hand size, which I feel like I have to do so very frequently in a solo player game outside of Protection. So we run a ton of the tech cards in yellow. We run Confuse in yellow, Disguise in yellow, and so we're able to manage threats. We're able to build very, very quickly because we're staying in Alter Ego. We have that future stability, a lot of ways to get tech, and then we can flip up and go crazy against a villain. So I am a huge Iron Man fan. I really, really do like Iron Man. I feel like Disguise is going to be really good for him. And so both in a multiplayer setting as the second hand to someone who gives him Disguise, but also in a solo game where you bring Disguise to the table for yourself, I'm pumped for it. So those are, I was going to say the 5. No, those are 5 decks that I'm really excited to play with Jubilee. I think she is bringing a lot of really cool things to the table. I didn't even talk about how Domino is going to be interacting with a lot of the new allies that we got. There's just so many cool things that are going to be coming to us when she gets released. So let me know what decks you're excited to run down in the comments. I look forward to reading them because I'm just having a ton of fun with the Jubilee reveal. So thank you all so very much for hanging out. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you next time. Peace.